doing this video because somebody keeps hacking all of my shorts. I mean, every single short. I can't even do a short with them. They keep interrupting it to try to screw up the streaming. So it's like this. They think they're funny, but it's criminal hackers in Saginaw County, Michigan. Again, I'm filming at a place called Buena Vista Township, and there is a lot of hackers here, and nobody does anything. They screw with people from the towers all the time. All the time. I know the neighborhoods where people are doing it, and I know the placement of at least one or two of the simulators where they, well, I say used to be. But they're screwing with people, YouTubers or not. They're screwing with your connection to the tower. Now, this is useful when you're hunting some kind of criminal. But let me tell you, randomly hacking people, or for that matter, taking people that are in a whole ward, that's not hunting down a criminal. That's harassment, and it's a violation of our civil rights. Our civil rights are being violated by people like this. And I hate people like that, using a military technology against the populace. They should hunt them down and let general population deal with them. I would say, if I was a CO, send them in. Let general pop deal with them. Especially when they tell them they're targeting children and teenagers. And older people, like somebody's grams, somebody's pops, being targeted by these people. And also, I wanted to put out the whole purpose why I'm doing this is because at least one VA is contracting with a lab called ARUP, A-R-U-P, ARUP Labs out of Utah. It may be a great company. The problem is their approach to medical testing. They believe it should be up to the lab individually. And they've actually entered lawsuits to sue the FDA, saying the FDA does not have any right to set standards for blood serum testing for particular tests. Their argument is the FDA does not have the right to govern lab testing, which is including setting, national rates for what is particular benchmarks and ranges for example, blood testing. What range of white blood cells is considered concerning that you would have an infection? Okay, our lab says 200 parts per million. Well, everybody else is saying 50. Well, our lab says 200. This is what's going on. And if you're a veteran, I'm hesitant to post stuff because we're targeted so much. But this kind of stuff ticks me off. Now, my experience with ARUP Labs out of Utah is the VA sent them my CCP, which is cerulocitrapeptide. Anyway, a CCP, which is a way of testing inflammation, systemic inflammation. And another one is called the ANA, which is something nucleo. Anyway, it's looking for more markers for inflammation. And these are specific to inflammatory diseases. You generally get at least both of these. And they may be a CRP. I think CRP is the other one. And then a rheumatoid factor. RHF, rheumatoid factor. That's another one. Looks for systemic inflammation. And these, what they do is try to narrow down autoimmune, some kind of arthritis, some kind of blood-based problem, bone marrow, leukemia, lymphoma, different kinds of arthritis, lupus. Well, I would say psoriatic arthritis or rheumatoid, and both lupuses. But the thing is, with this particular lab, When you go out on the web, and in particular, I used AI, Google AI, to look for articles and for opposing opinions regarding some of their standards. They've been criticized, which is the reason why they filed suit against the FDA. I find it interesting. They filed suit, not the reverse. They wanted to sue the FDA, saying the FDA doesn't have a right to tell them what levels and what ranges should be used to distinguish disease. This is the problem when business tries to dictate the science. Because of this, this may be the last straw. I may leave the Saginaw VA, and which means I don't have any medical care. But if they're going to use tests that are going to put my life in danger by dismissing, oh, there's nothing wrong. Or if it is, it's not bad enough. And then a year later, I'm in a wheelchair. Bullshit. Yeah, I just swore. Because I'm tired of people targeting my family and using us as a punching bag, whether it's at an agency like MDHHS, people making fun of us, or people trying to intimidate us or screw with us, nobody does anything, or the VA, people want to retaliate and make a police officer follow me around when I have a cleaner background than some of their employees. How do I know this? Because I'm in the process of filing legal complaints, so I do a background check. That's how I know that. I'm filing complaints with Lara and with various licensing agencies against healthcare providers because I'm tired of being a punching bag. And I'm tired of predators going into medicine, social work, law enforcement, thinking they can do anything they want. And you know what? You know, I'm a veteran. I roll with whoever is in the White House. And, you know, being now I've found my place as a libertarian, but again, there's not a libertarian in there. He's a Republican. So, hey, all right, I'm going to roll with it. We got a new commander-in-chief. I hope he does a good job. I'll probably like stuff he does, and I will probably not like stuff he does. One thing I hope he does do is go after bureaucrats who target people. You know, we should be limiting qualified immunity, and it doesn't just apply to cops, folks. You know, matter of fact, the area we live, we've met a few good cops. Yeah, a lot of bad ones that won't prosecute, won't even take a report, but there's been a few good ones. Qualified immunity applies to a lot more than just a police officer. You got civil servants, you know, bureaucrats in all kinds of clerkship positions, doctors with public agencies, nurses, judges, administrators with federal and state agencies. These are all people that are protected by qualified immunity. And I think qualified immunity really needs to be looked at again, seriously. Qualified immunity, strong qualified immunity that is a given, something never discussed, it's just assumed. That's what dictatorships do. Oh yeah, you can pretty much, you're okay. As long as you're doing something out of your position on letterhead and somehow you're related to your job, you're okay. It's exactly what they do in dictatorships. I think qualified immunity nationally has to be something seriously looked at and seriously refined, seriously brought to a very, very fine point instead of being broad. And broad qualified immunity. That's my position. And that being said, I hope that our new president does pull in the reins. You know, I'm not going to get into the deep state stuff. I don't get into conspiracy. But one thing I do know out of experience, yeah, there's some bureaucrats that are abusing their power and they're hurting people. And there's other bureaucrats that have power and they choose not to use it. They're not serving people. They're not arresting people. They're not prosecuting people. So yeah, we need to refine qualified immunity. Oh, you're not going to do your job? You're fired. And oh yeah, you remember the protection you had before? Well, that executive order was rescinded. You don't have that protection anymore. Go stand in the unemployment line like normal people do. And then you'll have a big taste of humble pie without the whipped cream.
The blonde guy, the curly-haired guy, and the German who was helping us with the
So now back to this fact of using this pharmaceutical company. They ARUP, ARUP Labs out of Utah. They're using standards that are arbitrary. They set the standard. In particular, for assays. Anyway, immunoserum tests that involve ANA, again, something nucleopeptide, and I don't know. Anyway, only biochemistry I know is stuff that I've taught myself. But anyway, it's some kind of marker, or not a marker. It's a kind of I guess it's just signs within cytoplasm, and it's different signs of inflammation, and it's like going down to the cellular level, at least within your blood, and look for signs of inflammation or degradation of your blood cells, all kinds of stuff. So that ANA, that's the big thing that I understand is ANA. And then the CCP, which is cerulocitropeptide. I could be wrong about that, but that's also another inflammatory marker. But when you get these tests through ARUP Labs, their levels they don't match what other labs. It's like they've set the standard very, very high. And it's unfair because what I know from reading some stuff from some other MDs and PhDs is that when they set these benchmark for, okay, this is the lowest level, this is normal. When they set this arbitrarily and they don't look at, I'm talking about entire spectrums, people from ill to barely ill to severely ill, and then, also normal. When they're really arbitrary in their selection, I don't know, the cohort is short or they're short fused and small sample. I'm not really sure, but it's bad science, because there's other people with MDs and PhDs who are saying when this is done in science, you can lose anywhere up to, one study I read, 11% of people with rheumatoid arthritis, because they set arbitrary, higher than realistic standards for the benchmark levels for particular immunoassays that assess people's inflammatory signs. They up to 11% of these people who do have this, in particular, this was rheumatoid arthritis. If some of these labs had more realistic ranges for these tests, what is inflammation? What is positive? What is barely positive or weak positive? What is borderline, borderline range for danger? What is, severe danger, et cetera, et cetera. You get my point. Anybody watching this, you get my point. But it's very arbitrary for, what was it? CCP. And what happened was, what they found out in their research is, because some of these labs are making very arbitrary, higher than reasonable levels for norm, weak positive, and for borderline, and then for severe, they're losing 11% of the rheumatoid arthritis population, people that later do get it. And now again, this is, a short-term, I don't know how many year, but less than 5 or 10 year cohort. So of those 11% out of the original samples, who knows what happened to the rest? After the study was done, 5 years later, maybe the people that never had rheumatoid before, maybe they do now. It was not a long-term cohort. But what they did know is some of these labs are setting arbitrary ranges that dismiss the margins, and that's not good science. It's not. You don't discount and ignore, first of all, the statistical anomaly, and then your small grouped marginal groups. You look at the whole entire sample. If in psychology, my area, we forgot about certain populations and certain margins, we'd know nothing about mental illness. So I think this is a statement about the science they're doing. It's not science driven, it's profit driven. Because regardless of what testing, what level somebody gets, especially a veteran through the VA is still paying for the test. And I'm sure it's big money because it's a federal contract. The only person to lose in the end, the VA, this keeps up their testing, their hematological, and what do? They do hematological and chemical testing. This keeps the budget going for them. In the end, it's only the veteran that loses out, especially if they do have an inflammatory disease, a systemic inflammatory, autoimmune. They have something, lupus, arthritis, leukemia, among others. The veteran loses out. So this is just out there. I hope I can help a couple of vets if they've understood this, even if they don't understand it that much, at least you have an idea. If you have testing with ARUP Labs, then try to gather some data or tell your doctor, hey, I would like a test with another lab out there, and maybe have somebody who knows how to research stuff or is good at it. Have them jump on the web and see what's out there, Look at the various labs. I don't think it's right that veterans are forced to go with a particular lab. I don't think it's right. Especially when, more than likely, this could be politically motivated. I don't like that. When a lab is suing the FDA, that says right there, you always want to balance profit with compassion and with conscience. If you don't, then all we are, getting tests through this company, all we are is guinea pigs. Just to make them richer. And so they sit back at a meeting and say, oh yeah, this quarter we made $4.2 million. Yeah, we seem to be having a problem reaching such and such population. Oh, okay, well just lobby Veterans Affairs in the House, or lobby Veterans Affairs in the Senate. Give them some discount or something. We'll make a lot of money and we'll make up that fourth quarter loss next quarter. Just food for thought, folks. I hope I can help at least one or two veterans out there with autoimmune disorder. You may not be getting justice or getting a fair shake.